Good morning, y'all. I hope you're doing well. It is Monday, November 10th, 2025. So today we're going to discuss a topic actually I haven't really discussed since about 2020. But I think it's more important than ever, and I'm always staying on top of it and kind of coming up with new methods and new investments to put into this portfolio. And this is my typical portfolio during times of recessions, economic crises, and a hypothetical scenario if we were to experience a crash, you could say, or a breakdown of society or whatever. That has really never happened before. So let's get into it. And this is something that, again, this is not something that you're probably going to find easily. I mean, you're going to get people probably a lot older than I am that are going to kind of give you their suggestions, but this is not financial advice, by the way. I have to state that. But it's worked pretty well for me, and I hope it works pretty well for you, and I feel relatively satisfied and safe with it. So I hope that kind of does the same for you. This is something you'll probably, if you do go to a financial advisor, they're going to pay you. They're going to charge you a lot of money relative to the information you're going to get. You're not going to get really some of the information you may be seeking. So, without parlaying any farther, let's get into it. First category for this quote-unquote recession or collapse portfolio would be precious metals. And I'm talking about physical ones. I'm not talking about the ETFs. That will do you no good. The fees are too high. You're not actually owning the metals. So that's just, you want to go buy an ETF, do so at your own risk, but it's not gonna benefit you anyway. So gold, silver. I know gold's all-time highs right now, so silver can be more expensive, but silver is still significantly cheaper than gold is, and it's very easily accessible. So definitely, if you have a little bit of money, buy an ounce here and there. It's good. Again, where you keep it is at your own discretion. Again, I'm not suggesting you keep it at home. It's definitely not safe keeping extensive amounts of precious metals at home, especially depending on where you live. If you don't have a good security system, if you don't, own a firearm protection, it may not be the best alternative. But there is safety deposit boxes, banks, trusting them. Well, do so at your own risk. And of course, if you have other alternatives, do so. If you are going to keep it at home, make sure it's well hidden. Make sure you have it safe. Don't let anyone know. Goes from there. But yeah, physical precious metals should always be on the top tier. If actually something was to happen where you actually had a breakdown of our government, of our financial system, you want to keep actual precious metals physically on hand. Can't get any better than that. Titanium is another one that I like personally. Bronze, of course, it's bronze. It's not really valuable. Can be useful if you're going to actually build things, but it's not really so much if you're actually using it to trade. It's not really a scarce asset. But I like titanium as well. I think titanium is pretty useful. It's in the cheap end. It's not really like a precious metal, but it is a metal, of course, but in the sense that people use it to barter and trade and buy things. There's also platinum as well, but very expensive. So if you have the money, definitely invest in it, but stick with silver if you're just starting out. So next category, your typical stocks. We're gonna skip over bonds. In today's world, bonds, I wouldn't even consider buying a bond if that was the last resort. You're essentially just paying to lose money. Their interest rates are just straight garbage compared to what you're going to get in return. The interest rates are garbage on them. The inflation rates are just, but when you compare the inflation rate to the interest rate, you're making nothing. And of course, depending what you're going to get. I mean, I don't know if you're getting tips. I don't know if you're getting just standard treasury bonds, government, corporate bonds, all of them, junk. But stocks. Obviously, the typical American stocks, or shall I just say an ETF, an S&P 500 ETF, always has been kind of the way to go in order to slowly build wealth over a career. You'll hear the same story, invest $400, $500 a month until you're 65, and then you can become a millionaire. Not so much anymore, of course. It doesn't really. I mean, yes, I still believe that investing is exorbitant, not really exorbitant, but a decent amount of money, say $500 a month, you probably can make $1 million or $2 million, upwards of that by the time you retire. Not probably, you will, but you gotta understand, $1 million is not what it used to be, and it won't be the same in 20, 30, 40 years from now. So you technically won't get rich if that's what you're trying to do. I mean, if you're investing a lot of money, I mean, if you have $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month to put into it, sure. I mean, but don't go all in on it. But if you have a decent amount of money, keep investing in it. But yes, stocks, S&P 500. I would not put too much. Personally, I don't rely on it too much as maybe past generations have, where they're so into it. I do have a substantial amount invested in the S&P 500 ETF, but not so much as a big percentage as people may have in the past. But I still do believe that the S&P 500, in terms of international stocks, is still the way to go in order to make a decent amount of return. A decent return over a period of time. But also international ETFs and stocks. Prices maybe, the fund prices may be a little higher, depending on where you go. It could be 0.25%, 0.5%, even upwards to, 0.75%. Still, it's pretty pricey, but you gotta understand that the world is changing, and there are certain economies that are starting to grow. And while China, for example, may have its own problems at home, and of course, their economy may be starting to mature, and they've had substantial growth over the last 40 years. I mean, it is still a good player in the game, but I definitely would not rely too much on China. People may make you believe that China's economy, is second to the United States in terms of investing, but don't go all in on China. That's just me. I also focus on just India. I focus on Brazil, Mexico's economy, and to a certain extent, it was Indonesia, and there's some African economies, though I have not really gone too far into the African economies, like Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, for example. They are still developing economies, and they have extreme potential in the future. But, again, I'm not an investment advisor. This is not advice. This is not financial advice. This is what I choose to do. Do so at your own risk, but I'm just telling you what works for me in these times. So, and again, unless you are putting serious amounts of money into this, don't expect to get rich. This is really to protect yourself, protect what you have, protect your wealth. This isn't to just go all on in and say, I'm trying to become a millionaire by tomorrow. That's not going to happen. Stick to, the cryptocurrencies. We'll get to that, but you know what I mean. Or penny stocks or whatever you invest in to make quick cash. So yes, let's get into cryptocurrencies. Number one, Bitcoin. Honestly, that is my largest portfolio composition. It always has been. Likely always will be until things prove otherwise. I have at one point I actually had upwards to 80% of everything I owned in Bitcoin. But I got into Bitcoin at 28 and some change, $2,800. So I've been in Bitcoin for quite a long time. Not as long as some of these other guys have, but compared to where the price is today, yes, I've been in it for quite a long time. I bought in after the initial peak at around 19-20,000, and then when it dropped back down, I got in. Then I rode back up. I cashed a lot of it out in the 50 range. Waited till it dropped again. You know, after the COVID rush where everything went back up, and I've been buying back in. So right now my average is around 19-20,000. So went up. You know, I've been in and out of it, making profits where I can, and you know, but I still buy even today. I recently bought a little bit of it at 102 something, 102,700, somewhere around there. And I've been trying to get it where it was the last few days. I mean, it's pretty cheap right now relative to where it can go in the future. If you really believe in Bitcoin, I feel like a maximalist like that, like I am. But yeah, Bitcoin is without a doubt, it's digital gold. It is essentially rivals many other investments, and there will be a day, of course, not tomorrow, not next year, but a day where Bitcoin will likely hit, you know, $1 million. But for today, we're staying real time. We have to, you know, be realistic. But other cryptos, Ethereum is kind of like silver to Bitcoin, which is considered digital gold. I have a little bit. Not too. Ethereum, issue with Ethereum is that it's not a limited supply. So, you know, that kind of concerns me because there's some inflation there. You know, when I think about cryptos, I think about a limited supply. I think that's how I think about cryptos. I don't like any inflationary currencies. I don't believe that currencies, you know, can function as a forever currency if they're inflationary and they're in control. If it's kind of like out of control, because Ethereum continuously grows. I mean, it's an inflationary currency. But I still believe in it, the project, and I think that there's been a lot of alternative coins that have came from Ethereum, and I do believe that Ethereum is still the top tier second crypto. So, but Bitcoin is still number one. And they're different. They're totally different in terms of what their use cases and the technology. But when I go crypto, still new, still early stages, I focus on Bitcoin. That's, you know, the 21 million cap. You can't get any better than that. And another project I like is Cardano. You know, it is pretty volatile, still new, but I like the team behind it, technology behind it. I keep a bag of that. Can't hurt. I know a lot of other people, you know, they're interested in like some of the what you call shit coins, or you know, they're fun to trade. You know, make a little bit of money, especially when the Doge boom happened. I mean, you know, that's always entertaining, but that's quick cash. That's a day trade or a swing trade. That's not something to rely on long term. Definitely though, hey, if you got a little extra money, you want to play around, go for it. Some people also mentioned Solana. I don't know too much about Solana. I should probably look more into it, research it, but I heard, you know, good things about it, and, you know, we'll see how that goes. Definitely need to brush up on that. So yeah, we've so far we've covered stocks, or we kind of X'd out bonds. We went over crypto and precious metals. So another thing you could really consider is any type of valuables. So whether you have like trading cards or memorabilia, or like a rare classic card that appreciates, those are also other things that can retain value and can be used to kind of barter and trade in a situation where, you know, cash may have no value left. We're talking United States dollar in the United States, of course. So, you know, of course, always definitely make sure you know what you have. If you're going to take something like a trading card and make some cash off of it during a time of need, of course, that is always it's important to know the value of it, whether or not it will retain its value during that economic crisis if people actually want it. But whatever that valuable is, or the memorabilia, just make sure you're pretty well versed in what it is. Yep. Next, food. Of course, food is something that considering now, like with the food stamp crisis, this is probably a good time where food may actually retain like an actual monetary value, where its value could even exceed what money is worth. But essentially, food is really something you only will barter with or use during a serious economic problem, like 1929, Great Depression. But for now, you know, not really. I guess you could say, what would be the word? I don't know. Still just waking up, so still my brain's still not fresh. But on and on. Guns and ammunition. Another thing that many people consider a value in times of crisis. Definitely is, but for your own personal sake. I mean, it's not something you want to go around bartering and trading with. I mean, it's as valuable as, it protects you. I mean, it's a personal protective device of a firearm during a scenario like, where you have complete economic collapse or downturn, and things are going crazy throughout the world, especially in maybe your city, your home state, in the United States itself. I mean, can you barter and trade it? I mean, as long as you got a secondary firearm or you have multiple firearms, maybe, yes. But I wouldn't really necessarily call it something to kind of use to kind of barter and trade with. It's more or less a personal protective thing. So that's my opinion. And I'd say the last category is actually pretty, I mean, I guess it goes against what I've been saying, but it's cash. Whether that is the United States dollar, the Canadian dollar, the pound, euro, yen, yuan, whatever. Cash will, depending on the situation, whether not the crisis is in the United States, whether, it could be, if it's worldwide, then, things may be different. But if it's actually contained to a specific country, and even if it is that specific country, having physical cash, not a debit card, not a credit card, physical cash is usually going to be the way to go. So, for example, let's say United States, we have a serious problem, economic downturn, a recession, even a currency collapse. Currency may still retain some value. Whether or not we're pushing wheelbarrows full of cash, like in Weimar Germany or in Venezuela, that's a different scenario, of course. Well, it still does retain some value. I mean, a wheelbarrow of cash, even though it's an enormous sum of cash, I mean, it still can buy bread. But yes, essentially, physical cash is still very useful in these type of issues. But also I would say carry international cash, because if the United States dollar does completely collapse, especially the Canadian dollar, it's going to be very useful. That is, of course, if Canada still is, still isn't itself experiencing significant problems. I definitely would keep a good sum of Canadian dollars on me, and mix it up. Keep some euros, keep some yuans, keep some pounds sterling. And another one is the Swiss franc. It's a relatively stable currency as well, and I would definitely keep some of that as well. But yeah, I mean, keeping cash on hand, and that is as good as it gets. But of course, precious metals, physical, remember that, is still top tier. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found this useful. Again, not financial advice, just what I would use in these type of periods. I relied on this. I put this plan into place during the pandemic when we actually thought the world was going to go to shit. Luckily, it didn't completely, but we were as a society to get through it. But I still put this plan in place. It worked for me. With the portfolio returns, with the Bitcoin returns that year and the subsequent year thereafter, it did make quite a big change in terms of money. So you know, I would definitely say it is a portfolio and it is a safety net that is a necessity. And I hope all of you can kind of come to, you know, sit down with yourself and actually create your own plan, your own portfolio, and, you know, kind of go from there just to be safe, because you never know when things are going to go crazy. But yeah, not really feeling well. Been feeling like this for like the past week, so many of my previous videos sound very like stuffy and whatever, but I'm gonna end it here. But yeah, until next time, y'all stay safe, enjoy your day, and I'll see y'all later.